Ahoy hoy, I'm Pavo.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to That's No Moon.
It's a podcast.
Your weekly digest of all the Star Wars news you need to know.
Could you have said that any faster?
No.
Right. So, the stories. Well, you've got the stories this week.
Right, well, there's been a couple of little bits and pieces that happened. Thandi Newton was introduced by Ron Howard on the Han Solo movie, which was quite nice to see. The story about the royal parks, did you see that?
No.
Saying that they weren't allowed to shoot Star Wars at one of the royal parks, which was a little sort of a weird little side note. But there's a book that's just come out, and I don't know if you've heard of this book. The book is called Star Wars: A Certain Point of View.
No, I've not heard of
Now,
this.
I think the book came out yesterday. It came out it's come out this week anyway. And basically it's a celebration of the 40 years of Star Wars.
So A New Hope, basically.
From A New Hope.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they have got 40 different authors, storytellers, to do 40 short stories. And basically all of the stories will fill in tiny little gaps in the Star Wars canon.
Right, okay.
So you have
fictional stories, not stories about...
No. Yeah, these are totally fictional stories.
Okay, sorry.
So you will have just some headlines of some of the stories. You might have the story of the guy on Yavin that's up that long pole. That now apparently his story is where he whisks his daughter away to Alderaan to keep her safe.
Okay.
Not a clever thing to do. Obviously, he wouldn't have known, but not a clever thing to do. There's also a little bit of a backstory in the Stormtrooper that shoots Princess Leia and stuns her.
Right.
So it's all of these peripheral characters.
Okay, that's a good idea.
But it fills in their backstory. Now, I was reading this on StarWarsNews.net. I think it was somebody had done a review of the book and given a few of what some of the stories were. So I wanted to go through some of the stories.
Oh, that's interesting.
So obviously a certain point of view comes from...
Sorry, say that again.
A certain point of view comes from... It's a little bit of a trivia question now. You know what? There are some times when I think you've never actually seen Star Wars at all.
You threw me. There is a point of view. Sorry, it's throwing me a little bit.
Yeah, so a certain point of view. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi had that had a talk with Luke and said, "You're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view, or on a certain point of view."
I'm just being slow there. Sorry.
I don't know. I think it's all a ruse. I don't think you've seen Star Wars at
Star
all.
Wars,
I
that's
think
that one with Captain Kirk,
I was going to say, I think you're a Star Trek fan. So basically, I said it's a 40th anniversary anthology. Contains different stories by loads of authors, both newcomers and veterans of the franchise. So it's
so it is people that have written.
Some
Star
of them are.
Wars
Some of them are brand new.
And are they like named people that have done this?
I mean, especially in the new canon. Claudia Gray, I think, is the name of the lady that wrote Lost Stars and the Leia book.
Right.
And I mean, as you're a book reader, aren't you? You
Yeah.
like reading books. Well, I like listening to books. I'm audio book, and the one thing that's wrong with Audible is they have none apart from two. I think Catalyst and the new Phasma book are the only ones from the new canon that they have on audiobook.
Okay.
This is available. I think you can get this on as like a free CD thing as well. All the proceeds, so all the people that have made contributions aren't getting paid for it. All the proceeds are being donated to First Book, a non-profit organisation that provides new books to educators and children in need.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, so I went through a couple of the little headlines for the stories. There's one that we will go into in a little bit more detail in just a little while, but some of these are the other stories. You have Ramus Antilles,
Right.
who is, of course...
Antilles, he's the fighter pilot, isn't he?
No, he isn't, no. He's the captain of the Tantive 4.
Right.
So what you see is the final moments from Rogue One. He's the person that hands the R2 plans to Princess Leia at the end. And he is also the person that gets throttled and thrown across the room by Darth Vader at the start of Star Wars.
Right.
So you get a bit more of what happens to him between those 2 points.
Okay.
Which I think would be quite interesting. There is also an interesting spin on the trash compactor scene as you witness it through the eye stalk of the resident Dianoga. So that could be interesting. It says whose purpose for grabbing Luke may surprise you. So you find out why it is, whether it's for food or he's just Luke's a plaything or a companion or maybe.
I fancy a bit of those little legs in Stormtrooper.
Maybe, maybe he's not too short for him.
Right, yeah. Maybe. Hey.
Now, it said on the review that one of the most interesting moments in the book takes place right after Obi Wan, Luke, and the droids come upon the massacred Jawas, and Luke sets off to his home to check out on his aunt and uncle. Now, while Luke is away and the droids are tending to the dead bodies, Obi Wan calls out an old friend for guidance. That old friend would be
Qui Gon Jinn, possibly.
Yay, going right. So Qui Gon appears to Obi Wan, and they discuss Luke's future, and you learn about the Force and one's ability to live on after physical death.
Right.
Reading a little bit more into it, what they were saying was that Qui Gon doesn't appear as a blue Force ghost. He actually is flesh. Which is saying that he has worked out the way of becoming a physical form rather than just a.
So he's back alive.
Well, no, he's back alive, but I think he can appear in flesh.
Oh, right, okay.
As opposed to the blue.
Okay.
Blue thing. Yeah, what do you call it? A Force ghost. Yeah.
What do you call it?
What do you call it, Willis? And then the other one, which I find quite interesting, is a story regarding the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader on the Death Star, told through the eyes of the Jedi Master. So you're in his head while he's fighting.
Right. So through Obi-Wan's eyes.
Yeah. Okay. During the battle, he's having visions through the Force, both in the past and the future. And it shows Obi-Wan's motivations to finally give himself into the Force via Vader through his own thoughts.
Right.
Which I think could be quite interesting.
Could be.
During the battle, he even has a vision of Luke's future and knows that there will be a time when Luke will face an exile similar to his own.
Ah, so that's linking into the new films, then.
Exactly. Well, what they were saying is that he vows to be there for him and offer him companionship, much in the way that Qui-Gon was there for him during his own 19 years of solitude. So that would sort of, you could imagine if they did have an Obi-Wan movie and it's about the 19-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and Star Wars, Qui-Gon Jinn could appear in that. Would be quite an interesting little story thread.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also that if that is the case, it like you just said, it does give a big hint maybe that we could see Obi-Wan Kenobi in The Last Jedi.
We heard his voice obviously in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And I think you hear his voice in the trailer, don't you, of The Last Jedi? Is that his voice?
Yeah, you do. But I mean, we hear the Emperor as well, don't we?
So it's very unsure on that. But I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him.
I think that could be. I mean, whether they would do that for the trailer, I don't think it wouldn't be a good idea to do it for a trailer.
That'd be the big. Do you think they're going to push in The Last Jedi for like the big moment like Empire had? So the big twist. Is there going to be a big twist?
I hope. Well, I think there will be a big twist. I don't want it to be where we find out who Rey's parents are. So it could be another.
Well, Luke turns around.
He is your father.
Rey, I am your father.
Yeah.
That would be.
I think if it was a twist, like all of a sudden Obi-Wan Kenobi's there, or all of a sudden Yoda's there.
I mean, I was thinking they might sort of hint to who or tell you who Snoke is.
Well, yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk online about the fact that is Snoke a failure as a character,
right?
Because obviously. With the pop figure that I've got over there, apparently that hasn't been selling very well.
Right.
Because a lot of people are saying, well, he just looks like Gold Member from Austin Powers. He, as in like the new one, he's got his gold lame dressing gown on, so they're a bit worried that character hasn't. And to be fair, there hasn't been much for everybody to go on.
Well, not yet. I mean, you had the hologram in The Force Awakens, and to be fair, everybody after The Force Awakens was talking about whether Luke is Rey's father or who is Rey's parents.
Yeah, but also,
so he's at the moment, limelight taken away from him.
Don't know what his threat is. He must have some power and some kind of threat to be able to say to someone like that General Hux, right, get Kylo Ren and bring him to me, and they do it. If it was just
he's got to be some sort of power. I mean, nobody who hasn't got that sort of power would keep appearing in that hologram form.
Exactly.
In some sort of big, sort of almost like throne room.
But it's how he's going to come across.
And who is he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I think. I mean, obviously, there's rumours he's Darth Plagueis, is it? And
yeah.
There's other.
I think that's already been sort of
quashed.
I mean, a lot of the talk online now is that he is just somebody that has been waiting in the wings, or he's somebody that has been from afar that is
so maybe
powerful.
Then there's our answer to last week's thing is why at the end of Rogue One was Darth Vader kicking ass and quite fast, but when he fought Obi Wan, it was slow and methodical. Maybe the reason is because Obi Wan was fighting slow himself because he was too busy thinking.
Maybe.
There you go. It's just answered it for you.
Maybe.
Or preparing himself.
Yeah.
To be struck down.
Yeah. Now, one of the other stories in the book, and the book, like I say, is available now.
Is it out now? Is it?
The book is available
now. Read,
yeah, I think it will be. One in The Empire Strikes Back, when we first got introduced to Boba Fett.
Yeah, well, they're all stood there. Yeah.
One of the lines of dialogue on from that always sort of felt had a bit more of a story behind it was when Vader is talking to all the bounty hunters trying to find, they're trying to get hold of the Millennium Falcon and the droids and Han Solo, and he specifically says to Boba Fett, "No disintegrations," as if like there's a story behind that. Why would you single out Boba Fett and tell him no disintegrations, as if they're right? Something's happened there. Well, they delve into that line in this book, and so basically the story is that Boba Fett is on Tatooine searching for R2-D2 and C-3PO, and he says, I'm assuming he's saying to himself that he's, as in Vader, this is what Boba Fett is saying, still got a mad on over those rebel spies I crisped on Coruscant. Idiots came at me with ion disruptors. What, they thought I wouldn't carry a weapon accelerator? Flash boom, 3 tiny ash piles. Tried to collect, and Lord no disintegrations. Refused to pay without bodies. My word's not good enough, apparently. Reckoned I'd make up for the loss by finding his droids and holding out for twice the reward.
Right, okay, that's quite a clever idea.
So they've retconned that a little bit in the fact that obviously he likes to disintegrate people, and Vader is calling on it basically and saying, look, if you're going to be working for me, no disintegrations. I think that's quite clever, the whole idea of this book is really, really good because it's almost, it feels like it's a game of Tetris where you're moving the pieces and filling in those blocks. You can
sort of see where the idea came from when they got the premise for Rogue One, isn't it? Off
that first those couple of lines.
Is where the idea for Rogue One came, and that's probably where they expanded on it for that. I like the idea of it. I wouldn't mind reading that actually, because it's not
very clever.
I've never really read the books because it goes off in a world that I'm really not that familiar with. But that sounds really
not so much now because it's all the books pre-Disney are all legends. They're not part of canon.
Right, okay.
Where everything after Disney now is all canon. So I'm assuming all of this stuff is all canon now.
Right.
But I find it hard to concentrate on books. That's why I like listening to them on audiobook. Catalyst was really, really good and made Rogue One even better.
Right.
Because of that little backstory of the Galen Erso, his wife, and Krennic, their whole
triangle. Told me about.
But it was so it looks like it could be a very, very interesting book.
So when you said authors, I was thinking, they got some celebrity fans who've written and things like that.
It may well do. I haven't seen the full list of 40 authors. It just says on there.
So interesting, couldn't it?
It's 40 different stories by just as many authors. I'm assuming that maybe a couple of authors have done 2 stories, but it says both newcomers and veterans of the franchise alike. So I think that could be very interesting.
So I'm going to ask you a question because last week I want to go back to this.
Okay.
You had a little bit of a grumble on last week.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling very well.
No, you weren't. You were coming down with something. So bless you.
So, can you then tie in the end of Rogue One to the beginning of New Hope? Like you said, it's not possible. Sorry, the fight with Darth Vader.
Right.
Can you tie that in now, or are you still anti that? I want to go back to that because it was something.
I'm not anti it. It's just one of those. It's one of those questions that you can retcon things to a certain point. It's the same as the prequels.
Yeah.
You can retcon certain parts of that, but then when you start picking at it a lot of it doesn't make sense.
Like the prequels to the original trilogy, there's some quite gaping holes.
Yeah.
Always like through.
Like why you wouldn't recognize? You can understand that 3PO wouldn't recognize Anakin or Darth Vader because they can have their minds wiped, but Anakin should recognize 3PO
because he made them.
Yeah, and also
and Obi Wan.
And also the big question for me would be he must know who Luke Skywalker is. Well, that's his last name.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, just me saying that, I do think that the comic books have now, with their, I think it was the Darth Vader comic book, has sort of questioned that because, or answered that, I should say, because I believe, and sorry if you've not read the books or read the comics, but I've read these couple. Boba Fett goes off searching for somebody and then comes back and to try and find out who this person was that blew up the original Death Star.
Right.
Vader doesn't know who it was. And then Boba Fett comes back saying, oh, it's this kid called Luke Skywalker. So at that point, Vader's whole mission, if you like, changes from being a protector of the Empire to hunting down his son,
right?
Because then he knows that that's his son. So I've just answered the question that I was pissed off about. So I shouldn't really.
Well, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? When you put it in that perspective.
But there are,
there's always going to be
there's always things there that you sort of think. The other one is when in Return of the Jedi, when Luke asks Leia, "What can you remember about your mother?" And she says, "Oh, I just remember she was beautiful, but she was very sad. I was very young." Well, yeah, you were. You were literally about 10 minutes old.
Yeah.
So there's
That'd
no
be the
way.
Force thinking.
Yeah. So there's no way that she would know who her mother was.
Of course not.
Whereas Luke says, "I have no memories of my mother," and to me, I don't understand why George Lucas didn't just make that a bit more simpler.
Yeah. Well,
there's no reason that he couldn't have written that in that way.
Well, he's not a script writer, is he, George Lucas?
Well,
let's be fair. I mean, he's a story writer.
Yeah.
But he needs somebody to fill in the gaps, doesn't he?
Yeah, so, I mean, but, there are going to be people that will watch or listen to this and then be going, oh, yeah, there's this and there's this and there's this.
Of course there is. There's all the stuff that comes before. But if you're just a moviegoer and only watch the movies, some of those holes are huge to fill.
They are, and that I think is the problem when you have a franchise or a product that spreads its canon out to other mediums, because there are people that, and I'm pretty much one of them, that is, I just like watching the movies.
Yeah,
I've watched Rebels and I've watched Clone Wars, but there is so much canon information in those and the comic books and the other books.
Yeah.
That some people will go, well, I don't want to read all of that. I want to just watch the movies. So it's a very fine line to get it right in regards that if you just watch the movies, that's fine.
Well, I always think to myself, when you see a film, even though it's got a follow-on continuation story, that film should be able to be merited for a film on its own.
Yes, it should.
So whether you're going into Empire Strikes Back, I think can be merited as a film on its own.
Yes.
But if it was just, I'm trying to think, is there a case in point where there hasn't been? But there shouldn't be, where the film you're watching the second one that you've never seen the first one. You should be able to pick up the story and always.
Well, that's what you would hope, and it's things like, say, Rebels, which I think
I've never watched
any of that,
no.
which I think is really good. It's especially now it's getting a little bit more darker, but with the main character in that, Ezra, who is becoming has Jedi powers, if you like, and is sort of being trained. You would think, right, well, he's got to die. This is the last series coming up soon. If he's got to die, well, all of them pretty much have got to die. Otherwise, why wouldn't they be?
But we said this about Rogue One, didn't we?
Yeah,
spoilers.
But then, to be fair, there are two characters in Rebels that are mentioned in Rogue One.
Right.
But like one is a droid that apparently is in the background that you can see, and the other one is mentioned like on a tannoy system. So you sort of go, and the ship from Rebels is in there as well. So you go, right, okay, well those two obviously have made it that far. But if you've got, like, especially with the fact that there shouldn't be any Jedi around in Rogue One, there apparently, whereas in Rebels there are potentially 2 Jedi. So where would they be if they haven't died?
Yeah.
But it's like I say, you can imagine why they need like a room, like a brain trust, if you like, because they need to have all bases covered, especially with something that is as analysed and picked apart as Star Wars.
I know it is. It really is.
You know, especially by like just knobheads in a room every week chatting about the minutiae of every single bit.
Wholeheartedly probably know the smaller things more than I do. I'm more of an appreciation of the film, and I love the film. It was always the very first film I saw at the cinema. I've grown up with it. I've always had the toys, the books, you know, as in the comic books, the albums.
Yeah, I think I am fascinated with universe building. The same as like Harry Potter. It's like with the Star Wars universe, everything has got a place.
Yeah.
And I like finding out the names of things and where it comes from and stuff like that. I am in no way an aficionado like some people are, where you hear them. I hear them on podcasts and they would talk about a planet in the blip blop system and stuff. And that's when I think, wow, you know, you really, you know,
that's really their hobby.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember when we had our family holiday to Florida, 2008, whenever it was. We went to Disneyland and went into the Star Wars shop, and there was a guy there who worked there, but he had his Jedi robes on, and he came up and he said, "Oh, yeah, right, answer these 3 Star Wars questions, and and I'll give you a prize." And so I thought, I know a lot about Star Wars. Every question I got wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was things like, what is the name of the castle that Darth Vader lives in? I said, no, mate, I haven't got a clue. He said, how many lightsabers are used? What different color lightsabers are used in the Star Wars films? Got that wrong. I can't remember what the third one was. I think I was just totally demoralized by the third one. But he sounded like a real geek, and somebody else at work there said, yeah, no, he is like an encyclopedia of Star Wars. He knows everything there is to know.
Right.
And you'd like to think that you're knowledgeable about stuff, and to the layman, if you like, I'm probably knowledgeable.
Well, I would say, I mean, that's what I was saying. I was complimenting you. You're more knowledgeable on the universe than I am.
Well, thank you, sir.
Whereas I would say on the filmmakers and what they would go and do, that's where my forte is.
What, for Star Wars?
Even on the filmmakers of what they did, like, the actors and stuff like that. That's where I lie. That's where my passion
What was Mark Hamill's next movie after Star Wars?
Corvette Summer.
Hey!
See?
Okay. Who wrote the original draft of Empire Strikes Back?
It would have been the screenplay, the original draft of the screenplay. Kasdan.
No, it wasn't.
He did the first one.
I can't remember the lady's name. But there you go.
Melissa.
No.
Okay.
I've got the poster there, but I can't see it. But no, then
anyway,
but yeah, we will quiz each other about Star Wars.
I will say this at some stage. I do want to quiz Pav on his favourite moments of the original trilogy. So I know it's going to be quite hard to narrow points down, but from each film of the original trilogy, I do want you to tell me.
Okay.
What will be your favourite moments?
Well, maybe we can see if we can get people to write in their favourite moments as well. Maybe are we going to do all 3 movies in one show, or start with Star Wars and chat about that? Or
well, I think we should see how we go with time. We'll start with Star Wars, but if we find that we're just rattling through it a bit too quick, we'll do them all. But obviously, we will try and do each film. But we will start with the original.
Okay.
And begin there.
And hopefully, if you'd like to tell us what your favourite moments are of A New Hope, we'll go with just
we'll go with A New Hope. Please do comment below. Tell us your favourite moments in that movie, and we will be able to join in the conversation with when I quiz Pav on his. When you do leave a comment, remember to press like. Also, tell us about this book. Does it interest you, or do you think it's a big pile of toilet paper that shouldn't have been bothered? It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. And if you do comment with that, do remember to press the like button.
And come and subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, hit the little bell icon. That means you'll be notified every time we release a new video. This video and this show is also available on iTunes, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
I still keep calling it iTunes.
Apple
Podcasts. So come and subscribe to that, and also come and leave a review and leave a rating. 5-star rating would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Every little helps with all of that. And also, if you want to tell us about your favourite moments, email us pancast@live.com.
Fantastic. Pat.
That's it for
Brilliant.
episode 49. And also to say, next week, episode 50, all being well, we can chat about the new The Last Jedi trailer.
I'm looking forward to this. Fingers crossed. It's rumoured to be coming out in America on October the 9th.
Which will be Monday night, which will be early Tuesday morning for us over in the UK.
So Tuesday night we will be doing That's No Moon.
Yes. So on our YouTube channel, look out, because we will be doing like a trailer reaction. I'll see what time it is. I might get up early and do one with your permission.
Absolutely.
And then we will pick it apart. Maybe do a special one on the Tuesday night, a special
Yeah,
That's
like
No
we've done
Moon or
before.
something. Maybe, yeah, because then that'll be episode 50 then.
We will do a special one on Tuesday night.
But yeah, episode 50 next week.
Wow!
Unbelievable.
Wow!
Unbelievable.
Wow!
Yay!
Yes, thank you very much for watching.
Indeed. May the force be with you all.
Wait.